He peered into the cave, only to freeze in sheer terror. Standing inside was a man, completely motionless. No matter how much he yelled, the man didn't react at all. Spurred by intense curiosity, he decided to check it out. Just to be safe, he tied a rope to a rock at the entrance, then called his dog to take the lead. But the dog was visibly terrified, whimpering in the distance and refusing to budge. Left with no choice, he swallowed his fear and went in alone. Just a few steps in, he felt an invisible barrier blocking his path. Confused, he reached out and touched the air. It felt like a strange wall of force, completely sealing the cave off from the outside world. This bizarre phenomenon baffled John, who happened to be an archaeologist. But it only fueled his curiosity, and without a second thought, he stepped through. The moment he crossed that invisible wall, he gasped. The man who had been frozen just seconds ago was now moving slowly. As John walked deeper, the man picked up his pace and quickly vanished into the darkness. Even weirder, the moment John stepped into the cave, the light outside began to flicker rapidly. Before he could figure out what was happening, a blood-curdling roar echoed from the depths, followed by a piercing scream. Scared out of his wits, John turned on his heels and bolted for the exit. But when he stepped outside, he froze. It was broad daylight just 2 minutes ago, but now, the world was pitch black. His dog was gone, and everything around him had changed drastically, as if decades had passed in the blink of an eye. Panicked, he rushed toward his SUV, only to find it completely decrepit, overgrown with wild vines and weeds. He frantically tried to start the engine, but the battery was dead. Then he noticed his ID badge. It was already yellowed from years of oxidation. Every sign pointed to the impossible. Centuries seemed to have flown by. Utterly bewildered, John searched for clues. That's when he spotted another off-road vehicle nearby. Seeing no one around, he decided to salvage its battery. But as he got closer, he saw this car was also a rusted piece of junk. He distinctly remembered it wasn't here when he arrived. Suddenly, a backpack inside caught his eye. It belonged to his student, Nick. That's when the gravity of the situation finally hit him. He realized his students must have come looking for him, and all signs indicated they had gone into the cave too. Determined, John went back to the entrance and forced himself to step inside again. To keep from getting lost, he dropped glow sticks on the ground to mark his path. But when he crossed the invisible barrier, the glow stick he threw bizarrely floated in midair. He reached out to grab it, and it drifted slowly with his movement until it finally cleared the barrier and dropped to the floor. Right then, the entrance behind him started flashing wildly again, and that terrifying roar echoed from the deep. This time, he didn't back down. He marched forward into the darkness because his students were in there. As it turned out, John was a university archaeology professor. In his spare time, he explored the wilderness for one reason: to find his missing parents and sister. Local lore spoke of an ancient secret hidden deep in these mountains, a fountain of youth concealed within a cave. Supposedly, whether you were terminally ill or already a corpse, soaking in its waters would grant you a fresh start and eternal life. Years ago, John's parents had set out to find this fountain to save his terminally ill sister. But over a decade had passed, and the three of them had vanished into thin air, leaving no trace behind. Today, John had finally stumbled upon his parents' rusted car deep in the woods, with a family photo still inside. Spotting the eerie cave nearby, he had gone straight in. What John didn't know was that the moment he first crossed that invisible wall, 3 days had already passed on the outside. When Professor John failed to return, his students decided to form a rescue party. Thinking there was safety in numbers, they even brought along 2 young kids. But when they finally arrived, all they found was a dilapidated car and a rope by the entrance. Realizing the professor must have gone down there, they rigged up their own ropes to rappel into the cave, leaving a timid kid named Furby topside to anchor them. Before long, the group also encountered the invisible barrier, but they didn't think much of it at first. But as they turned on their flashlights to search, a monstrous roar echoed from the shadows, sounding like some terrifying creature. Terrified, the group scrambled to climb back up the ropes. But halfway up, the taut rope snapped out of nowhere. Kara fell, crashing right on top of Nick. The fall broke Kara's leg and badly injured Nick's wrist. Confused and desperate, Nick yanked on another rope, and it snapped too. Thinking Furby was playing a sick joke on them, Nick grabbed his walkie-talkie and called him. Instead of an answer, they heard Furby's frantic, muffled cries for help before the line went completely dead. With their only lifeline cut, they had no choice but to search for another way out. Soon, they found a high opening, but climbing out wouldn't be easy. Stranger still, pulses of light kept flashing across the opening. At first, they thought Furby was just messing around with a flashlight. Viv climbed onto a boulder to get a better look, noticing another snapped rope hanging down. But when she looked closer, she gasped in horror. Lying behind the rocks was Furby's lifeless body. Did someone cut the rope topside and send him falling to his death? They quickly noticed that Furby's video camera was still recording. Desperate for answers, they hooked it up to project the footage. What they saw left them utterly mind-bending. In the video, Furby claimed he hadn't been able to contact them for days. The group was completely bewildered. According to Furby's timestamps, when he recorded that, they had just rappelled into the cave. Time inside the cave didn't match the outside world at all. While waiting, Furby had discovered Professor John's SUV and found an ancient book inside. It chronicled a queen who sent an expedition to find the Fountain of Youth to save her dying husband, only for them to vanish mysteriously. Soon after, Furby found John's father's journal, confirming he had come looking for the fountain to cure his sick daughter. The kids in the cave were losing their minds. The footage proved days had passed outside, yet it felt like barely 30 minutes to them. But the video was real. By day 7, Furby had completely run out of supplies. Seeing an opening nearby, a desperate Furby decided to climb down into the cave to find them. But right after he got down, the sky outside began to shift at a terrifying speed, and the next second, his rope snapped.
Oh my god.
Watching this, the group was heartbroken and utterly consumed by fear. The whole thing was just too surreal. To find out what was truly happening, Kara decided to free climb her way out. But halfway up, she felt the air pressure shifting violently. When she finally dragged herself out of the opening, what she saw left her completely jaw-dropped. The once lush, green forest was gone. In its place was nothing but a barren, apocalyptic wasteland.